if God is so good, then why do I feel so bad? If I'm supposed to have full life, I think my full life tank may have a leak in it, because a lot of times life just feels like it's just hard. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Right in this middle story about a good shepherd and his sheep, we see that there is a thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I was like, that's what happened to me largely in my life from 3rd grade till 21, is that the thief was largely stealing all that God had, because the next part, Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the what? To the full. Another translation says, a rich and satisfying life. And so at age 21, I began to be what I thought, I'm on Team Jesus now, baby. Like, we win in the end, we win now. And I heard about Jesus is going to come and he's going to have the final victory and all that. But in the middle of that, I thought, I'm on the winning team. Like, devil, you can quit and go home right now. Like, you're done stealing my life. Because I thought that the story ended there. But can I tell you? It didn't. It didn't. And so I had this question that I often lived with. Man, if God is so good, then why do I feel so bad? If I'm supposed to have full life, I think my full life tank may have a leak in it, because a lot of times life just feels like it's just hard, right? It's hard. And then, I don't know if you're like, have you ever noticed sometimes like chaos comes out of nowhere, right? That I was living just a normal day, right? And all of a sudden in traffic or something that happened in a workplace, like that was just a complete misunderstanding, chaos that can come out of nowhere. And for some of you, it's called holidays with your family, all right? Like, I didn't mean anything by that, so in those places. But has anybody ever experienced like a crippling fear that just comes like a wave? Like, whoa, I physically just felt anxiety in that moment, or fear just rose up. And where does that come from? Or you've walked into a hotel or through a neighborhood and you're like, something just feels off. I feel worse being in this place. Or maybe you watched something or saw something in the news, and later on it just has this feeling like, I feel like I just got slimed, right? Or maybe you know somebody, maybe you've even felt this, like, man, I was going strong. What happened? I was going strong. I was developing this love for Jesus. Or I had this friend, they love Jesus, and all of a sudden the next day, they're not in the game anymore. What is going on? And part of the answer is that there's still an opponent and there's still time left on the clock. And in the end, we know that Jesus will come. He will have the final victory and establish his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. But in the meantime, John Eldredge says it this way: we live in a great love story set in a war. Man, isn't Jesus amazing? Don't we love him? We love God. We all know God's love for us. We sing about it. And we desire this full life, but don't we feel the war that we're in the meantime? The war. We live in a great love story set in a war. So in this series, we're talking about the ways that sometimes the kingdom of God is really just different than the normal way we see life, the way we look at life. And I think there's an aspect to this when it comes to how do we see the kingdom of God, of like, what's this supposed to feel like to have this full life? And I've titled the message this: the kingdom of God is not yet a cozy kingdom, right? There are moments where it feels like this great peace, but there's also this very real sense that we're in a battle, because the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of light, maybe you heard it said, is opposed by the kingdom of darkness, by a very real enemy, often called Satan or the devil, where good is opposed by evil, and where the truth is opposed by lies, and where love is opposed by hatred, and where peace and order are opposed by chaos. Is that not, has anybody checked the news lately, right? That is the world we have, the reality that we live in. C.S. Lewis says it like this, author and movie writer, I'll say that, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, but he says, there is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch is claimed and counterclaimed by Satan. There is no neutral ground in the universe. So it's this idea that I'm going to tell you the good news is that when we receive Jesus Christ, we are claimed by him. That is a promise. Our eternity, our salvation is secure. but we live in what is still a battle for our hearts. You feel like days your heart feels good, my heart feels full, and other times my heart feels beat up, like it's under attack. And so we still live in that very real battle. In this idea that we have an enemy that we cannot see, but is having a very real effect on us, was a Christian idea from the early church. And so often we can just feel like, man, the enemy or my battle is against my kids screaming in the back of the minivan, right? Or it's my boss who's kind of a jerk, or not if you work here at Revision. But, it's that email, or the enemy is the other political party that feels very, very real. But the early church understood when Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus, he says, hey, hang on, I want to reframe this. Because our enemy is really actually manipulating the people and the things around us, so we feel it, but they aren't actually the enemy. Here's what he says. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, people, other people, right? But against the rulers and against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil. And where does all of this happen? In an unseen realm. It says the heavenly realms. So the very real, the most real enemy that we face is not actually your neighbor who you're fighting with, or your kids, or whoever it is. Our enemy is really the devil.